The senses are governed by our primitive instincts. Irrespective of who you are in terms of your religion, your age, your economic status, your gender, your beliefs, the senses are built to, designed to follow primitive instincts, right? Some old grandmother, very, very old, is still taking care of you by sitting inside you. When you are old, the same granny says, you better die in favor of the young, so that there is no competition for resources. Once you cannot reproduce, grandmother says, die. Now you see why the society does not like people who do not reproduce. If you don't have kids, how does the society behave? You don't have kids? Okay, you are no more needed in the party. Holiness you associate with all kinds of nonsense. I got pregnant on this day, the baby was delivered on this day. These are such holy events. God has sent this thing. No, God has sent the Gita. That doesn't occur to you, right? Objects, mind, intellect, and ego. We will understand the interplay between these four, the mutual relationship they carry. Objects obviously, externally they appear to be objects of the senses. Internally they are all objects to the ego, because the ego is the principal subject, the mother subject. So the senses are governed as a default rule by our primitive instincts. And those primitive instincts form the biological core of the ego. Right? The senses are governed by our primitive instincts. Irrespective of who you are in terms of your social upbringing, your religion, your age, your economic status, your gender, your beliefs, irrespective of who you are, the senses are built to, designed to follow primitive instincts, right? And that will not change irrespective of how wise or foolish you are, or how rich or poor you are, or how young or old you are. That's just not going to change. Doesn't matter whether it is a session or a cricket match. If a flying projectile comes your way, what will the senses automatically do? They'll just get away instinctively. And it does not depend on whether you have a prior experience or not. Even if I tell you that this is again going to come your way, your reaction would still be the same. Your senses did not bother even to ask your past experience. So you could be the wisest person on the planet, or you could be an utter animal, it doesn't matter. When a stone comes your way, you will immediately just react instinctively. You'll jerk away. Do you see this? In that moment, who made the decision? Did your body, first of all, your eyes close the moment they find something coming at you? Do you see what happens? And the head deflects to one direction. Did the body, the eyes, consult your memory or intellect or wisdom or discretion? No. And we have done it twice, we do it 4 more times, yet the result will be the same. Something comes your way and you will just instinctively jerk your head away. Because the senses, we said, are governed by very, very primal instincts. The purpose is to save the body. Something is coming here and it can harm the physical mechanism, this apparatus. So I have to get out of the way. You won't be asked. Later on, you may reflect, question, ponder, whatever. In fact, it would be very interesting. Forget about me throwing something at you. If you just bring your own palm speedily towards your eyes, you will find, are still reacting in the old fashion. Now, the senses will not trust even your own judgment. The senses will not say, but this is, my own arm, why will I hurt myself? No. Do this, see what happens to your eyes. Who is making the decision? Who is making the decision? This is very beautiful. Some old grandmother, very, very old, is still taking care of you by sitting inside you. And just like all grandmothers, she doesn't take your permission. She just does her own thing without consulting you. This is like reassuring, but it's also scary. She has only one purpose: to defend the body. Not only defend the body, her definition of the body itself is a little dangerous. To her, the word body means the functioning of the body as it has always done. And that includes the brain. And what is meant by always? That corresponds to the period when you were in the jungle. So that's how this old grandmother wants to protect you, by preserving your animal past. And that's the biological core of the ego, we said. She wants to protect you. She sits inside you in every cell of your body. But her definition of protection is very interesting. She says protection means remaining as you were like millions of years ago. So your past is being protected. You are being protected to remain the same way as you were then. Are you getting it? So that's how the senses operate. We say usually that the senses are dictated by the ego. But the ego consists of many things, right? The ego consists of your biological core, and then comes the social conditioning you have received. And then if you go to the psychoanalysts, they'll talk of the superego. They will say the ego also consists of the almost unachievable ideals that you hold. They too are. So the ego is many things. But the senses, first of all, follow the biological core. And it's not that the senses will not listen to the other layers of the ego, but the biological layer is the most central one. You won't even call it a layer. We said biological core. Biological core. So there is a biological core, and on that you have many other layers. The senses, first of all, listen to the biology, right? So you want your arms to work, right? You want that. It's very important that your right hand keeps functioning. But you slept over your right hand, and morning when you wake up, you find that something has frozen and it's becoming difficult, and it pains in the shoulder when you try to lift it. And it's very important for a good cause that you fully utilize your right hand. But the arm will not listen to you. The arm is listening to the old grandmother. And she is saying two hoots to any noble cause. What's much more important is that the arm should be preserved. Right? We don't want to listen to you. Your hair gray, you know of all the changes that occur in your body absolutely without your permission. And they annoy you. Why the hell is this happening at this time? Why am I feeling sleepy when it's the time to race? Why am I feeling hungry? Or many other things. I mean, mood swings. Why is all this happening? You can see it's happening in spite of you. You can see you don't want it to happen. You were never consulted, and yet it's just happening. Something happened, and you see that it's a trivial event, and yet you find yourself being affected, and your eyes well up, and there is an upsurge of emotion, and right? Sometimes you find tears flowing down, and your intellect knows very well that all this is very stupid, but it's still happening. That's a grandmother. Getting it? You are young, an attractive person is in front of you. You might have already been told that the person does not really value what you do. You might be an animal lover, and that person is an animal eater. And yet if that person looks absolutely ravishing, you'll find your body is not cooperating. Your knowledge, your values suggest that you must keep away. But your body is saying, no, I mean, let me go and talk. And you getting it? So that's the reason why you'll now understand. Often it is mentioned in spiritual literature that you must control the senses. Because the senses, though technically are controlled by the ego, but they are controlled by such a deep part of the ego that you cannot call it autonomous. They are controlled by such depths of the ego that the ego itself really struggles exercising control over the senses. It takes It takes seriously honest self-observation to be on top of your senses. Otherwise, the senses just follow the ancient order. Are you getting it? The senses will do what they have to do. The session continues till late and you find yourself now waving like a leaf, about to fall. And the senses do their thing, and their thing is to relate to some object that will carry forward the primitive agenda. And the primitive agenda, we very well know, is very simple, very straightforward. You must survive and your DNA must proliferate. That's all. Nothing beyond that. You must survive, and to survive, obviously, you will need certain decent and favorable conditions around you, otherwise you can't survive. So all the conditions that are necessary for survival must be created or fought for. So first of all, you create situations of comfort around you. That's the first thing. I'm happy, there is good food, I can sleep, there is protection from animals, disease, etc. is not a threat. First of all, these things, and once these things are taken care of, then the only other agenda is to just keep proliferating your DNA as much as possible. You have such telling examples from the animal kingdom. I forget the name. There's a particular species of they look similar to zebras. So when they are attacked, they live in a group. And when they are attacked and when they are running away, let's say a pack of lions has attacked them. There is this entire herd, like a herd of buffaloes, let's say. They are not buffaloes, but let's say they are buffaloes. So there is this herd of buffaloes and they have been attacked by lions. You know what they do? When they are running away, the elder ones are deliberately kicked by the younger ones so that they stay behind. And who are these elder ones? Their fathers and mothers, actually. So first of all, they are old now, so they anyway can't run speedily. And even if they do run, the younger folks in the herd, they kick them with their rear legs so that they fall behind. And if they fall behind, what happens? They'll be eaten by the lions. That's how the grandmother has arranged the party. Do you understand this? The old ones are past their reproductive period. So for her, they are now useless. They serve no practical purpose in the plan of proliferation of your genetic material. So Granny says, let them be eaten. Many purposes get served. First, if the lions are hunting, that means the lions are young. If the lions were old, they too would have been gone by now. So those young lions also need to be, healthy so that they can carry on their own reproductive processes. So let the lions have food, and let the lions have food without getting hurt. Because if a lion gets hurt, it's sure shot death for the lion. Getting it? A buffalo gets hurt, it will still survive because it feeds on matter that is not moving. You could say static. So the grass is there and the buffalo is hurt, but the buffalo can still, somehow walk up to the grass and eat and just save itself. But the lion has to continuously hunt. And if the lion is hurt in one leg or something, or it gets fractured, that means the lion will die now. If the lion has to face young buffaloes, that would mean the lions are running a risk. Grandmother says, why should the risk be run? Let the lion face the old ones. No, they are not much of a threat. The lions will happily hunt them down and satisfy themselves. Getting it? Now, secondly, the young ones have been saved. The young buffaloes have been saved. One more thing. These old ones were anyway demanding too much share in food. So if there is a grassland and the entire herd is there, these old ones, good for nothing, they too come to graze. They say, we also want to have some grass, some leaf, something, whatever is there, fruit. And they are good for nothing. Since they are good for nothing, let them be hunted down. Nobody taught this to those buffaloes. They're not really buffaloes. That's a creature. Huh? Wild beast? That one? It's an African thing where you have the lions and these ones, and nobody taught it to those beasts. But it's been happening since centuries, millennia. It's just been happening. Do you understand this? Because this is your biological core. Nobody needs to teach this to you, just as nobody needs to teach fish how to swim. You will do it. We said on one hand it looks beautiful. Somebody sitting within us wants to protect our body. As long as you are young. When you are old, the same granny says, you better die in favor of the young. So that there is no competition for resources. Otherwise, there is food. And 5 oldies are also saying, give me something. And the young ones have to then cut down on their own share. No need. You are old now, you die. So that the young ones have monopoly over the resources. You see, you look at all aspects of your behavior, geopolitics, or how organizations, corporations work, how families and cities function, and you will find nothing but the jungle there. A politician gets old and he is elbowed away by his own protege, the ones he mentored, raised, brought into politics, kept under his wings. These same young leaders will now push away the aging old leader. That happens everywhere. You have seen that. Where is that coming from? You'll say, oh, that is coming from an absence of values. No. That's coming from the grandmother. She's sitting within. She says, if you are old, why are you not dying? And old does not mean you have to be 80 or 90 or 200. Old simply means if you are past your reproductive age, you must die today. Otherwise, you are unnecessarily consuming some share of the available resources. Granny says you should not even eat. That food should go to someone who is fertile. Yeah. Now you see why, just as the grandmother kind of, we could say, hate those who do not reproduce. Do you see this? Once you cannot reproduce, grandmother says, die. Now you see why the society does not like people who do not reproduce. If you don't have kids, how does the society behave? You don't have kids? Okay, you are no more needed in the party. Okay, there is a marriage at home. Fine, you see whether you want to come. No, even if you don't come, it's fine. You understand where is that coming from? That's not a lack of values. That's the primitive order. Your worth is determined by your reproductive cells. Granny does not like you if you are no more fertile. And this is 21st century, and the society does not like you, and the society says, well, we have our reasons. There are no reasons. There is just the ancient order of the jungle. Just that when you tell this to the haters, they won't agree. They will say, no, 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 we have other reasons, this reason, that reason. The average Indian spends many times more on wedding than on education. Do you see where that is coming from? What does the grandmother want? Should the buffaloes go to school? What does she want from them? You just reproduce. The father of the girl is the male buffalo. He would rather invest resources in getting his daughter laid. Then she is born to bear kids. She is born to bear kids. Why invest money in her education? You will say, no, this father has no love for the daughter. It is not a question of love. There is the grandmother sitting within the father. And in absence of self-knowledge, the father will never know that. The father will say, you see, I am a loving father. I am spending so much on my daughter's wedding. And the more animalistic you are, the more you will value wedding over education. Please understand. If you want to just find out somebody's BQ, buffalo quotient, just see how much that fellow values weddings compared to education. If you want to figure out a city's BQ, what will you do? Number of banquet halls versus the number of schools and colleges. Simple, very simple, that's all. Just go figure out how much area in the city has been occupied by banquet halls compared to schools and colleges. How much money is flowing in this direction versus that. Simple. How excited are people about a wedding compared to a parent-teacher meeting? And that will tell you the BQ of the entire city. Getting it? What do you call as a landmark event in your life? Which particular anniversary do you celebrate? The day when you were admitted into school or the day when you got hitched? How many of you remember the day you were admitted in school? Yes, Chetna? Oh, very high BQ it seems. But anniversaries have to be remembered. And when I say that, people get angry. They say, he's spitting at our sacred relationship. See, I'm just calling a buffalo a buffalo. Why are you getting offended? You do not remember the day you stepped in school for the first time. And that must be a very sacred day in your life, because that is the beginning of your humanness. The process that would elevate your consciousness. You do not remember that day. But the day where 500 people gathered to celebrate your physical union, eggs and sperms, that's all. That you constantly remember, and you get so hurt if your partner forgets that. How dare you forget our anniversary? You remember the day you completed your first worthwhile book or novel or something? You don't remember that. Because grandmother does not want you to remember that. But so many of you would remember even the day of your breakup. This is the day, I broke up. Ideally, you should remember the day when you enrolled into Gita Samagam. And you should celebrate that day big time. But you will celebrate all nonsensical days because that's how Granny has written the mandate. It doesn't occur to you, right? That the day of your admission into the Gita program is probably the holiest day of your life till now. Holiness you associate with all kinds of nonsense. I got pregnant on this day, the baby was delivered on this day. These are such holy events. God has sent this thing. No, God has sent the Gita. That doesn't occur to you, right? When the kid comes to you, you want to remember and celebrate it every year. But you don't understand that real God, first of all, sends down Gita. Granny gives you kids. Prakriti. Ancient, yet always young and fertile. That's how you can imagine her. The most protective, yet the most brutal. She will protect your body and totally ignore your consciousness. You could say beautifully brutal. Repeating this. So your eyes, your body, your organs, all kinds of things, they will move towards objects, and those objects have been set in advance. You're getting it? You see this? Some old lady says this is her love. You have to decide whether this is love or bondage. According to her, this is her love. The deepest, most profound wisdom might be raining on you. And yet, if the aroma of some delicious item comes wafting, you will find your nose twitching like a rabbit. You can try that, just as we conducted this experiment. You can try that as well. Let Shiva open his box of goodies from the behind. Nice sweets or something, anything delicious and aromatic. And you'll find it's becoming very difficult to attend to the session. Right? So the objects of the senses have been set in advance. And these objects of the senses, they become objects of the ego. In the sense, they constitute the mind. The preset objects of the ego become your mind. What is the mind? A random assortment of objects that the ego has mistakenly related itself to. We are calling them random because the ego didn't really consciously decide. The decision came from the very biological core of the ego, where decision making is really not present. You don't decide, just as you don't decide to breathe. It happens. Extremely angry. He was told, somebody has totally messed up with something. And he's shouting, who is that somebody? Bring him in. Stands fired. And that somebody walks in. A sexy siren. And the entire tone changes. No, it's all right, you see. We are not all that harsh. The organizational policy says that we must behave very cordially with everybody, no problem. He hasn't decided. Please understand. He hasn't decided. So we are calling it a random assortment. It just happens. Just happens. Granny says it is love. The wise ones have said it is bondage. You figure out what it is to you. It just happens. And this random happening, this random collection of objects is what you call as the mind. Such a shame. We say my mind. What your mind? Granny dictated your mind. The shape, form, name of objects keep changing across places, situations, times. But essentially all objects are objects of the jungle. And it has been well set in advance. Now you understand why. There is some substance when people say that there is not much in the individual's hand and our destiny is set in stone even before our birth. There is some point in this belief. Because you see, the constitution of your mind becomes your life. And that which goes to your mind has been decided in advance by your senses. They follow Granny, the jungle rule. So in that sense, even as you are born, it is kind of already decided the life you will live. Just that what is decided for you and for you and for you, and it's much the same. The name, shape, color of the objects can vary, but essentially all those are objects of the senses with just these functions. The function is to keep me happy, keep me safe, keep me comfortable, give me food, and let me have sex. There is no other function. And also, when the kids are born, You have to take care of them because granny wants the kids to be raised. If you just produce the kids and leave them, then the cycle will be interrupted. You understand? And therefore, it's not sufficient that you just give birth. After giving birth, you must also survive for another 10-15 years till the time the kids are ready on their own to give birth. And then you become redundant, and then you can be thrown to the lions. Once the kids are on their own, then you can be thrown to the lions. You must be thrown to the lions, otherwise you are a needless competitor for resources. You getting? It's a 2 BHK. And one room is being occupied by the oldies and they are coughing every day, every night. So granny sends some bacteria, some pathogens. You see the old ones, they are so vulnerable. You understand why? It's not random. There is a scheme behind it. When COVID struck, who were the ones who died the most? The old ones. The ones with existing morbidities. The young ones were able to sail through, mostly. But if you are already carrying a disease, then COVID will probably kill you. Because granny does not want you to live. You produced a kid, you raised the kid, now why are you still alive? She gets angry. Why are you still alive? So there is this virus, this bacteria, this disease, this cancer, this osteoporosis, or look at any particular disease. Chances are it will strike after 40 or 50. When you are young, chances of diseases are not all that. And as you grow older, they say, you must get yourself tested every 2 years, then every year, then every 6 months, then every day. Just to check whether you are still alive. No? Think this. So all this that you find around yourself and in the newspapers, look at it with dispassion. It's not personally happening to you. It's part of an ancient order. And the order is extremely simple. Behind all the complicated systems and organizational dynamics and national and international policies and treaties and everything that's going around that you see, there is just the order of the jungle, nothing more than that. Why does that old uncle look at me that way? Don't try to find answers in his religion or your faith or in his past traumas or the way you are dressed up or anything else. If you want to have original, solid, authentic answers, go back to Granny. She holds all the answers. Getting this? So the eyes have their objects, the hands have their objects, the nose has its objects, the whole body, the limbs, the reproductive organs, all know their objects in advance. You don't have to teach this to the kid. Do you have to? Think of it. Do you have to teach the kid how to obtain its feed from the mother once it is born? Granny has already been educating him or her in the womb itself, sitting inside the kid. So you think the fellow that is born is 1 day of age now? He was born yesterday? No. Granny has been teaching that one since millennia. He already has a lot of knowledge. He'll stick to the mother and not go to the father. In fact, father is not even considered by kids. It's after a few months that the kids get accustomed to the father. The father is a very later development. Otherwise, in Granny's scheme, the father is needed just to fertilize the mother. Otherwise, then the father can go away and the kid is supposed to know only the mother. Therefore, when kids are born, they'll always know the mother, but it could be the father or the gardener or the cook or anybody else. It doesn't matter, and it becomes a joke sometimes. Why is the kid more attracted to the gardener than to the father? There is no specific reason. What is certain is that the kid will always move towards the mother. And that is not love. That is survival. That is physical survival, nothing more than that. Don't think that the kid is, stretching out its arms towards you with a lot of divine love. No, nothing. The kid is simply saying, you feed me. I am hungry and you're supposed to do that because that's what Granny's rule is. All this becomes the mind. The predefined objects of the senses, all taken together, become the mind. And therefore, now you will understand why our minds follow roughly the same patterns. You will be thinking of Manoj. He will be thinking of somebody, Bharti. Now you will say Manoj and Bharti are two different individuals, two different genders, two different places, two different upbringings. But the thing is, please understand, Manoj and Bharti are one. In what they mean to you. If you have Manoj as an object in your mind, what does Manoj mean to you? You understand that. And if he has Bharti as an object in his mind, what does Bharti mean to him? You are saying cake. He is saying banana. He is saying yogurt. She is saying rice. All these objects are different, and you'll say, you see, I'm an individual because I'm thinking differently. No, sir. What does cake mean to you? What does yogurt? What does banana, rice? What do these things mean to you? The same thing. So superficially, our mental objects are all diverse. And on this superficial kind of separation and diversity, we base our claims of individuality. We say, I'm different. My choices are different. My choices are different. Don't you say that? He's thinking of one thing. My goals are different. No. Your goals are all the same. Just that they differ very superficially. You are attached to your mother. She is attached to her mother, and their names are different. Full stop. And you will say, I'm an individual because I'm not attached to her mother. You see, she is attached to her mother. I'm not attached to her mother. So I'm an individual. I'm different. You get this? He loves one particular team in a club and he loves another one. And they'll say, I'm an individual. Why? Because my choices are different compared to the other one. Sir, how does it matter? Your choices mean exactly the same thing to you. You are a fan of let's say what? Name a club that you like. Chelsea. And he is behind another club. Manchester. And they'll say no. But what Chelsea means to him and what Man U means to him are much the same thing. Getting it? And that is called the mind. So the ego rush after objects, and those objects, all they just keep getting in and they become the mind. So this is this way. The unconscious predefined relationship of the ego determines the object. The old biological core of the ego determines the object. And once that object comes in the mind, then the conscious part, the outer layers of the ego relate to it. So before you relate to it in a conscious way, you have already been related to it in an such a shame. Not getting it? There is somebody inside this, right? Hidden, veiled. This we will call as the inner ego, the ancient biological core of the ego. ठीक है? Hidden to this one. This is the conscious, to whatever extent, part of the ego. This core is not visible to this one because this is facing outsidely. Now this one actually calls, attracts this one. The core of the ego determines the object. But this one does not know that because this one is acting behind his back. You getting this? The core of the ego determines the object. So the object is given entry into the mind. This is mind. This is mind. This one called this one. The biological core of yourself called this one into your life. But this is who you think you are. You do not know this because you do not have self-knowledge. Self-knowledge means turning inwards and seeing what is operating behind your back. And you have never tried that, never cared to do that, never dared to do. So you do not know of this. And this one is playing all its tricks. And where do her tricks come from? Granny. In the jungle, yes. This one is doing what she has to do. So this one has called this one into the mind. But this one does not know that. So when this enters here, what does this one think? I chose her. You didn't choose her. She was chosen in advance. This is what the wise ones call as bondage. There are no free choices. What you think you are choosing has been chosen for you in advance by somebody hiding behind you. And this one is feeling very empowered and happy and walks all strutted up. You know, I make free choices. I am a self-made man. I brought this one into my life. And grandmother is? How is she smiling? You come, you go, I remain. You come, you go, I remain. Getting this? Now this is one object of the mind that this one thinks that he has chosen, whereas this has been chosen by this. So your choices are not your choices. Your choices are somebody else's choices that you do not know of. Somebody is hiding inside you. The deep I, which is not the Atman, not the pure self, but the deep biological core of your ego that is hiding within you, but you do not know of it. So you think you are making choices. Now next is this one. So this could have been like what? Dhania. And this is now Pudina. So again, now he is busy with her for a while. And what is this one doing? Now he is busy with her, but this one is silently wooing her, beckoning her. So this one enters the mind. And when this one will enter the mind, this one will think, I called her in. He will not know that all this was happening behind his back without his permission, without his knowledge. And now the mind has how many objects? Similarly, there are 40 other objects that get accumulated in the mind, and you say it is my mind. And often you say, no, I'm yet to make my mind, or I'll change my mind. Your mind? Your mind? How is it your mind in the first place? Have you made up your mind? I don't have mind. There is no mind. No mind. No mind. Getting this? This is the hidden one. And all self-knowledge is about knowing her. The old granny. In her own way, she thinks she is a caring one. You know? There was just one to own your DNA. Now there will be diversity. Now you can fertilize both of them. So there are greater chances of survival of the offspring. You know, like hedging your bet. Don't they say, don't keep all your eggs in one basket? That has a literal meaning. That's what Prakriti is telling him. This is the basket. And you have eggs. Divide your eggs at several places. And then you say the fellow has not been loyal and all those things. So much cheating is going on. No, this is not cheating. This is just obedience. Conformity. And how can you blame somebody for listening to granny? Elders must be respected. Huh? He is loyal to the grandmother. Now intellect. We have covered mind, ego, objects, intellect. Now once the objects are all in the mind, then there is this sense that works on arranging them, using them, prioritizing them, again being dictated by the granny. Intellect is your power to arrange methods of dealing with objects. Intellect comes up with new and new methods. Now there is this object, what to do? How to protect it? Just bringing it within my field is not sufficient. It has to be utilized. It has to be kept within. Intellect is that within you which gives you the tricks and the methods to deal with objects so that they remain within and they are utilized to fulfill granny's objectives. That is what the intellect does. So you will see that the intellect too is driven by the ego. And since the ego has the ancient biology at its core, therefore intellect also follows granny. Granny says, go get the banana. Intellect tells you how to get the banana, then how to secure the banana, then how to hide the banana, how to dispose of the peel, how to use one banana to obtain two more. All the how-tos are answered by intellect. It is an inventor of methods. Now you understand why the intellect in itself is such a little cheap thing. It is a servant. If you have high IQ, at most that means you will be a good servant to granny. That's all. Granny says you must have more land so that you can have more grain, so that you can have more space to breed. So you must destroy everybody living on that land and occupy it. Because your own genetic material deserves to proliferate. Intellect will come up with a nuclear bomb. Intellect will come up with a nuclear bomb, but even the nuclear bomb exists just so that you can fulfill your wild objectives. And the wild objective is nothing beyond aghast. I mean, all these things, well, the fission bomb, the fusion bomb, all this is happening for the sake of just nothing more than that. Is it a technical development truly? No. It is a development driven by your biology. And therefore, if nuclear proliferation is a problem, what is the only way to really address it? Self-knowledge. But when you say that, the smart ones will laugh. They will say, no, it's a technical problem. It's a political problem. We will figure out ways how to deal with it. What ways? What is any war for? Resources. But you don't see it as it is, nor do we depict it as it is, nor do we teach it as it really happened. Why did the Brits come to India? The way we want to tell it to our kids is, they hated the brown men. So they came here to kick us around. They were inherently brutal and unjust. So they came here to insult us, violate us. They came to you just to take away your resources. That was the only objective. And when you could no longer provide them resources, they went back. That's it. That is a simple story. They never loved you. They never hated you either. You had resources. They wanted to consume those resources. Why does anybody want to consume resources? So that one can live in pleasure. And one can breed abundantly. That's all that they wanted. That's why they came here. That's what the entire process of colonialism is about. That's also what the world wars are about. Nothing more than that. So, can you stop colonial tendencies or future world wars without self-knowledge? Not possible. You came up with the League of Nations. It became defunct. Then you said, now we have the United Nations after World War II. See, We have come up with a more robust security architecture for the world. The entire Israel-Iran thing, and then the US stepped in. How many times did you even hear of the United Nations? Where is the United Nations? No United Nations can prevent wars. The only thing that can really prevent wars is if you can know who is it deciding things for you behind your back. Shh. कोई है. You are never alone. There is always somebody with you, usurping your agency. Like somebody is fraudulently signing checks on your behalf, carrying your name, carrying your identity, and taking decisions without consulting you. Think. There is another Chetna, and she keeps signing checks behind your back. She signs the checks, and your account is debited. She entertains herself with all the shopping, and you foot the bills. There is somebody behind us. She decides, this fellow, he needs to be now attracted to my physical space. So she calls him in, and you keep paying the price your entire life. And you think you fell in love. No, you never fell in love. Somebody else made the decision for you. And that somebody is not your father, your mother, or your uncle, or the society, or anything. That somebody who made the decision for you is sitting right within you. In absence of self-observation, you do not even know how your processes operate. You think this is my decision. This is not your decision. Now, intellect, we said, is a servant, right? And the role of that servant is to serve, obviously, the master and the guests of the master by implication. If you have guests in your house and there is a servant, your servant serves them as well, doesn't he? What do you want to eat? Here is a chair for you. So the intellect, in the primary sense, serves the ancient master, the grandmother. But when all these objects are accumulated in the mind, then the intellect has to serve them as well. Because it is those objects that have to be raised, protected, defended, arranged, utilized, prioritized. Getting it? And that's how the intellect remains active, functional, doing this kind of thing. It could have done something far higher, far better. Using the intellect, you could have gone into the material. And if you can figure out how material processes operate in the universe, you will know so much about yourself as well. Because you are the universe. But instead of the intellect being free of this burden, intellect being free to look at the visible, the sensual universe and digging out its secrets, not only in terms of exploring the planets and suns and galaxies, but in terms of exploring societies, nations, constitutions, languages, history, mathematics, science, everything. The intellect could have done all that. But instead of doing all that, it finds itself being busy in defending the objects that have accumulated. Now, even if the intellect does go out to find, for example, how to climb up a particular mountain, it is not for the sake of free discovery. It is for the sake of one of the objects here. Now, one of the objects here says that I will stay here only if you come with me up to the mountains. So now the intellect will go to the mountain and figure out a few things about the mountain, and that will only exploit the mountain, and that is what you call as tourism. There is something called being in love with the hills, and the intellect can go there and figure out where the hills came from, what kind of flora and fauna, where are these streams coming, what are the various seasonal processes, and so many things. Instead of that, the intellect is going to the hills and figuring out, how to blast the rocks away and make a road, where to build the next shopping mall, how to convince a few villagers to sell their land. You see this? The intellect is still going to the hills, but now it's a purpose-driven intellect, not a free intellect. And what is the purpose of the intellect? Defend these objects, because all these objects are here in the pleasure of the master. And since obviously I have to be at the service of the master, that implies that I have to take care of these objects as well. That's how our intellect operates. Which means you should always be skeptical of inner arguments. The intellect is a capable servant. This one is to an extent logical. This one says, I will base my decisions on logic. But the one behind does not operate on logic. She has an ancient agenda that brooks no logic. That agenda does not base itself on any logic, is not contingent on any logic, is not dependent on any logic. That agenda just is like the universe. What is the logic behind the universe? Why must the universe exist? There is no logic. It just is. Similarly, her agenda just is. But this is the conscious part of the ego. This one says, for something to exist in my domain, there has to be an argument, some logic. Now this is the intellect. You know what the job of the intellect is? To manufacture logic to satisfy this one. If an object is here, this is the domain of the mind, right? This object is here. Actually, there is no logic. There is just instinct, primitive animal instinct. That's the reason why this one is present in the mind. There is no real logic behind that. There is not even causation behind that. There is only instinct, just instinct. But this one will not agree. The conscious ego will not agree. This is an argumentative ego. It will not agree. What will this one say? If this is here, there has to be some reason. Now, intellect comes handy here. She winks to the intellect. She will wink to the intellect, and he will not know, because all this is happening behind the back. Now from here she will wink to the intellect, and intellect will manufacture a beautiful argument and tell it to this one, and this one will be convinced, and this one says, see, I am not operating from instinct, I am operating from argument. No, there is a reason. There is a reason I hate those people. No, there is no reason. Reasons are just being manufactured. There is really no reason. There is just instinct. There is just desire. And then you manufacture reasons to support your desire. There is just blind desire. You see how dangerous intellect is? It convinces you of order where there is no order. It convinces you of logic where there is no logic. It convinces you of reason where there is actually no reason. There is just the primitive desire of the animal. There is no reason. It exists. That's it. Getting this? So you have objects, you have senses, you have mind, you have the ego, and you have intellect. And this is what today's verse is about. You allow random objects of the ego to settle as the mind, and you will find that your intellect has been reduced to perform just one function: defend and secure those objects. In some sense, the intellect has been kidnapped. It has been taken away. It could have performed a higher function. Instead, it is now just doing domestic duties. Domestic duties meaning what is already in the mind, that has to be argued for, protected, defended, expanded. That's today's verse. For the one whose mind follows the wandering senses, what does this mean? The senses are obviously wandering, but are they really wandering? No. They are closely sticking to the roots appointed by the grandmother. So when you say, no, my eyes are wandering, the eyes are not wandering. The eyes are actually very closely sticking to an old map. And the map is pre-installed in you as you are born. You come with an inbuilt GPS. And that GPS, that positioning system, decides what the eyes would be looking at. But because you do not know that there is a GPS within, so you think that the eyes are just wandering randomly. You say, chanchal hai. No, they are not wandering randomly. Every single step is being decided by the ancient GPS pre-installed in your hardware. You know of these cars. They come with inbuilt GPS systems, don't they? The modern cars. And suppose it's a driverless car. So there is no driver, but there is already a map inside. So the car knows what it has to do, but you will say the car is wandering. No, the car is not wandering. Even without the driver, the car knows where to go. Similarly, there is a map inside you that is constantly guiding the senses. This is what you have to extend your hand towards. This is what you must listen to. This is what you must avoid. No, don't take that route. Some acharya sitting there. Get in? Don't you get that notification sometimes? Danger on that route. Avoid. It is already the grandmother within you is hell-bent on avoiding any road that takes you to the Gita. It will say road closure. Here is an alternate road. For the one whose mind follows the wandering senses, whenever your senses are wandering, never think that there is a random movement. There is an ancient instinct, not random movement. And that movement of the senses will bring certain objects to the mind. So, for the one whose mind follows the wandering senses, it means for the one whose mind is made up of objects brought by the ancient movement of the senses. The intellect is robbed, the intellect is hijacked, because once those objects are in the mind, now the intellect will just serve them. The intellect is carried away, just as the wind carries off a boat on the water. There is no individuality in the boat. The boat has no inner force of its own. The boat has no driving agency of its own. So something very prakritic just takes the boat away, and that's what happens to each one of us. You think you are thinking. No, you are not thinking. You are being made to think in a particular way by grandmother. Atma, in some sense you could say, is the boatman. Atma is the rower. There is this very old video. I titled it Now Beach Bhavar Navik Bekhabar. Very poor quality. Some 4p or 8p. That kind of. But the idea was the same. The whirlpool is not even ahead of the boat. It is right inside the boat. And the boatman is merrily sleeping. The entire purpose of wisdom literature is to wake you up so that you have a certain command, a certain mastery, certain ownership. Let's simply say a certain existence. Otherwise, if the boat is just being randomly carried away by the winds, do you even exist? The Gita, the scriptures, the teacher, they don't exist to give you knowledge, to teach you something. They exist to give you birth. Otherwise, you are blowing in the wind. A leaf is just blowing in the wind. Would you say the leaf is alive? That's how our life is. Blowing in the wind. Where is life? Where is agency? Where is discretion? Getting it? There are no complications for the knower, the Jnani. There is only the primitive game of Prakriti, and there is liberation. Beyond these two, there is nothing at all. Feeling sleepy, is it a decision? No. It's just happening. Am I alive? Now let's say a dead body is put there. It would shake and wave and oscillate in much the same way. Have you seen Jaane Bhi Do Yaro? That wonderful scene on the stage, Mahabharat scene. So the dead body is standing and it's being presented as Draupadi. The Chidharan scene. And Dushasan comes to Draupadi and she has been draped in a sari. Well, it's a dead body, but it must look like Draupadi. So he says, now I'm going to do this, do that, and let me see how you save yourself, Draupadi. And the dead body falls on him. And the audience almost dies laughing. We are not masters of anything about us. Like a dead body, we can fall towards any direction at any time. If I don't intervene and the session continues for another hour, we will need a pillow and a mattress and a blanket. Happily stretched out. Without your permission. There has to be an anger. If I have not agreed, it cannot happen. I can't claim ownership over the universe, but as far as my life goes, my inner life, it cannot happen outside my discretion. There is a sacred place, a sanctum sanctorum inside. Nobody will rule that place. Don't be the receiver of action. Be the actor. Actions happen to you and you remain just the receiver, the experiencer. Does that not happen? You have started feeling drowsy. And who are you? Just a passive receiver of that experience. There is drowsiness. And I'm just experiencing it is happening to me. Don't let things happen to you. There has to be a resistance. That resistance is the only technique Vedant knows. Neti neti. Resistance. How is it happening? Sir, did I agree? How did you enter my room? Get out. And she's saying, no, but I am so enchanting. My name is Nidra Devi. You get out. You will enter only when invited or at least allowed. Have I asked you to come? How dare you enter? Yes, sir. Next time onwards, I will sleep in full consciousness.